I would like to talk a little bit about tithing and giving. And I think Danny, we discussed this a little bit, Dan, a couple of weeks ago. Um, Tithing and giving, is there a difference? Big time. Number one, tithing
Mike, my
is
question,
primarily.
Mike, my question si
Okay,
Nestor sa chat.
si
Ang
Nestor,
temple tax daw, is it equivalent to tithing daw? Is it tithing ang temple tax? Nasa chat.
that is what exactly I'll be explaining right now. Nestor, ito ang question ko right now. Ang explanation ko. There is a difference. The word tithing is primarily Old Testament and very specific. Tithe is equivalent to 10%. Okay? So in the Old Testament, the Jews were told to pay their tithes, their taxes, equivalent to 10% of their whatever income. It is not only in money. They were to give 10% of their crops. Kung corn ba yun, they are to give 10% of the corn. Kung may kambing ka, kung ilan ang, ilan ang kambing na nanganak and so on, then 10%. And every single thing that you earn are to be tithe. Now, here's what many people do not understand. There are roughly three kinds of tithes in the Old Testament. The first one is your regular 10% that you set aside. The second type of tax is done once a year of all your income for the poor. Sorry, for the purpose of what do you call this? Uh, the celebrations of the feast. So every time Israel has a feast, all the expenses are coming from that second type. So take note. The first type is your regular giving. Your second type in the Old Testament, okay? The second type is for the expenses of the temple. So 10 plus 10, ilan na yun? Sino bang mathematician dito? How much is 10 plus 10? So now we are 20%, okay? And then there is a third type that is taken every 3 years. Every 3 years, they extract another type for the purpose of using it for the poor. So kung 10% divided by 3 years, it's about 3.5%, right? So if you add 10 plus 10 plus 3.5, ilan yun? 23.5% roughly every single income that you have. So if you want to follow that, go ahead. Okay, go give 23.5. And besides that, they were still expected to give many other things. So, Nestor, your question, tithe in particularly is a specific way to support the work of the temple, to support the Levites because they cannot work outside of the temple, they cannot own any land, so they are totally dependent on the taxation given to the temple. Here is a verse.
Mo na yung kulang anak.
Senen, i-mute muna kita, okay? Nakamute ka. Okay. Here is a verse coming from the Old Testament that many Christians use to support their, tithing today. Ito ang gamit nila. Malachi chapter 3, verse 8 to 10. And many of you know this verse. To the beginnings of chapter 3, God was saying, you are robbing me. Niyanakawan niyo ako. And here's how the people replied to God. Will a mere mortal, that means a human being, a mere mortal, rob God? That's what we're saying. Yet you, the people, are robbing me. Niyanakawan niyo ako. And then, the people replied, but you ask, how are we robbing you? Paano kami nagnanakaw sa'yo? Here you go. God says, in tithes and offerings. So, in these three ways that there are tithings in Israel, either your regular tithes, either your celebration or feast tithes, the second type, and the once every 3 years tithes that are for the poor, you have been robbing me. You have not been giving the whole amount. If you want to be a very specific accountant ka, ano talaga? At a bare minimum, 23.5% of your income. So if you are giving 23%, then you are robbing God of 0.5%. Make sense? So if you're only giving 3.5%, then you're robbing God of 20%. Okay. So continue. Verse 10. What's the solution? Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse. Now, that storehouse is very specific. That storehouse is in the temple. Why in the storehouse? Because doon tinatago yung kambing, yung bigas, yung corn, or whatever produce you have. That's why it's called the storehouse. Why? Why are you to bring the whole tithe? That there may be food in my house. By the way, tanong ko, who is eating those kambing and the chickens and all those things? The Levites. The Levites are supported by the giving or the tithes of the people, that there might be food. So it looks like at the time of Malachi, the Levites, laging kulang, distribution laging pagkain. Why? Because not everybody is giving their share. That's why God is saying, you are robbing me. Ninanakawan niyo ako. So that is the portion of tithe. So let me open the floor for a little bit and ask your questions in this area. Anyone? Rex? Okay, nag-unmute ka, Rex?
Yeah, Brother Mike, who was saying this verse in Malachi?
This is God speaking.
To whom?
To the Jews, to the Israelites.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sino pa
Brother
yan?
Mike,
Yes, Ness.
since yung sinasabi diyan is from the Old Testament, paano ngayon? Kaya nasa New Testament naman tayo.
Okay, dun muna tayo sa Old Testament. Right after these questions, we will go to the New Testament. But I just want to say that the word tithing, in particularly, was not only primarily in the Old Testament. It was for a very specific purpose, to support the Levites who is doing everything in the temple work, because they are not permitted to work outside. Hindi sila pwede mag-sideline. Okay? They are full-time. They are full-time, just like in the book of Romans, because the government people are doing it full-time, then they deserve to be paid. Right? They need to be paid taxes. In the Old Testament, because it's a theocratic government, so technically the Levites are the authorities of God. They are servants of God, and they are doing it full-time, and thus must be supported by the people by paying their temple tax.
Yeah.
Okay ba? So Old Testament mo tayo, Nes. We will go to the New Testament. Okay. Any more thoughts on this? Any question, comment? Yes, Lowell.
Apparently, well, it's a test to faithfulness of the people. No? It wasn't easy to tithe that much, no? Kung ngayon yan tayo mag-tithe ng ganyan.
Yeah, 23.5.
Yeah.
23.5.
Oo, so mabigat talaga, no? So it's a test to faithfulness talaga.
So again, I'd like to clarify, Lowell. The word tithe means 10%. But the reason why it is 23.5, because tithe is in three ways. The regular tithe, then the tithe for a second tithe for your the expenses of the fees and every other expenses, and then the third tithe is once every 3 years. So that's why it's 23.5. Okay, so take note of all of that, everyone. Okay, so pag sinabing 10%, you can tell, oh, alam ko, ang Bible says it's 23.5. Okay, it's not 10%.
It's actually 23.333.
Yeah, I mean, roughly there you go. Yeah, 23.33. I-round off na lang natin, 23.5. As a matter of fact, there are many other things that the Israelites, the Jews were commanded. For example, if they were to move their produce, their crops, okay, in a cart, pag may nahulog, you cannot pick them up. You cannot put it back in your cart, because they are to be left behind so that those who cannot afford can pick them up and eat it. Remember the story of Ruth and Naomi? Remember, they were walking behind a cart para pag may nahuhulog, they can pick it. Because by law, any businessman, kung corn ba yun, kung wheat ba yun, or kung chicken ba yun, nakawala, kung nakawala, you are not supposed to get it back. they are supposed to be, quote unquote, contribution or distributed to those who cannot afford. So yes, it's 23.3333, but because of other law, it could be about 30% really, because you cannot prevent, quote unquote, you cannot prevent accidents, right? So imagine mo kung ngayon, Lowell, kaya yung negosyo mo, okay, may truck ka, tapos nabangga, tapos nabuhos yung content, you are not supposed to put it back. Okay? So at a bare minimum, 23.333%. Correct. Any more? So, tithings is a means of the structure of a theocratic government to pay the Levites who give their full-time service in the temple and to support any and every feast. Remember sa panahon ni Jesus, when all the people, all the Israelites went back to Jerusalem to celebrate the feast of ano bang feast? Anyone can help me? What was the feast?
Over.
Passover. There you go. The feast of Passover. Every single Jew from every part of the world came to Jerusalem. So guess who paid for those? Temple tax. Okay. So, all right. So Nestor, let's go to your question. Giving. Now, yes, tithe is given, but it is also the word pay is more appropriate for the word tithe, because tithe is something that is demanded. It is something you owe. So that's why you are robbing God if you don't give the whole tithe, because that is your responsibility. As a Jew, you are to pay your tithes. In the New Testament, it is more cheerful giving. Okay, let me give you a couple of verses. First, in Luke chapter 6. First, the principle. Jesus is the one speaking. He says, give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. So he did not give a specific amount, he gave a principle. And the principle is, the more you give with the measure you use, then that same measure will be given to you. In other words, the blessings that will come to you will be in accordance to how much percentage you give. So ang question ngayon is it 10%? Is it 25%? Is it 5%? Well, we don't know. The principle is, the more you give, the measure you use, the same measure will be given to you. So the payback is even more. Let's take a look at another verse. This is Jesus, no? Luke 6. Now let's go to Corinthians. This is Paul. Very specific about their giving. He says, remember this. He starts with the principle taken from what Jesus had said in the book of Luke. So he uses now in a farming illustration. Whoever sows, sino yung nag-harvest? Whoever plants sparingly will also reap sparingly. And whoever sows generously will also reap generously. You see, it's an echo of what Jesus have said in the book of Luke. Then the next verse, in verse 7. Ito na, how are you going to do that? Each of you should give, not pay, should give what? What you have decided in your heart to give. So question, how much is that? I don't know. What does your heart say? Okay? Magkano sabi ng heart mo? Now, but then he says another thing. Not reluctantly. Unlike tithes, you are supposed to pay. And if you don't pay, you are robbing God. But here, you are to give not reluctantly or under compulsion. Hindi pinilit. You see, this is something we have to understand. When we give to the Lord, it is not like He lacked anything. Unlike the temple tax, pag hindi nagbayad ng tax ang mga Jew, walang pagkain ang temple, then the Levites, papayat lahat. So kung gusto mo magpapayat, become a Levite. So, but here the principle is no. As believers, as Christians, the Lord is not so much concerned about your specific amount that you are faithful in your 23.33%. Rather, He wants not reluctantly and not under compulsion. Why? For God loves a cheerful giver. Okay, ba, Nestor? Okay. Okay, so let's take a look some more in 1 Corinthians chapter 16. Now, about the collection for the Lord's people. Take note. What was the collection for? For the Lord's people. Because the church in Corinth was an established church. So there were people, perhaps I don't know who are doing it full time. Remember, if a person is giving his whole time for the service of the Lord, he needs to be paid by the people of the Lord. So, verse 1. Now about the collection for the Lord's people. Next line. Do what I told the Galatian churches to do. So in other words, hindi lang ito para sa iyo. This is not just for not only for you, the Corinthians. It's a principle for everyone, everywhere, even the church in Galatia. So what do? Verse 2. On the first day of every week, that's Sunday, on the first day of every week, each one of you should set aside a sum of money. Magkano yun? Well, next line. In keeping with your income. So in other words, si Boboy is earning 100,000 pesos a month or 200,000 or half a million ba a month. Then, kung nagbigay siya ng 1,000, tapos let's say si Enzo is earning 50,000, nagbigay rin ng 1,000, Boboy cannot say, parehas lang yung binibigay, yung what I'm giving is exactly the same as Enzo. Dalawa kami, we are giving 1,000. Not true. Not true. This is now where the percentage based on your income comes in. The only point is this. The Lord did not say give 23.33%. You make a decision. The more you understand what God has done for you, the more you understand the gospel. Ang tanong is, how much do you think is it worth for the Lord to take you out of hell and prepare to you all the promises He have? How much is it worth? Well, whatever your income is, it's not even enough. Okay, but the point is, the Lord is saying, what I want is you give it cheerfully. It's really coming from your heart. It's coming from a heart of gratitude. So where are we? Sum of money in keeping with your income, saving it up. Okay, the church is saving it up, collecting it. Why? So that when I come, si Paul, sabi niya pa, when I go there to Corinth, there will be no collections that will have to be made. So that the money, kung meron tayong kailangan, kung meron tayong gathering, then we have the money. We do not need to collect at that time. Okay? We need to start storing it up. Storing it up so that when the need comes, then the money is ready. You don't need to wait for the next, coronavirus. As a church, as a group, start collecting. So that when the next event happens, kailangan ng ganun. Then it's ready. You see, the thing is, we still live in this world. And in this world, quote unquote, money makes the world go round, right? I mean, that's what runs. Kung gumawa man kayo ng mask, kung gumawa kayo ng, if you are to help a family, may namatayan, may kailangan, then the money is ready. See? So the key, set aside a sum of money in keeping with your income. That's a percentage. But how much is that? It's up to you. And that is the difference between tithing and giving. Nestor, let's start with you. Is that something that clarifies or hindi pa rin answer yung question mo?
Mike, ang gusto ko malaman ba, yung giving ba, halimbawa, you give to the charities, baka yung kamag-anak mo na tinulungan mo, may namatay, binigyan mo, can we consider it as one of your generosity na it will be...
I'll go straight. No. Why? Let's go back to the text. Verse 2. On the first day of every week. So who gathers every first day of every week. It's the Christians. Okay? Each one of you should set aside a sum of money. So this particular givingness is given to that group. Let's say lang grupo nyo nila Danny. Okay? This is my suggestion. Dan, my suggestion. Amongst you, have a regular collection. So that maybe in the future, okay, merong, sabi pa ni Nestor, may charity. Let's say a Christian charity that needs help, a cancer child, for example. Then you as a group, not an individual, Nestor, as a group, need to decide, let's give to this, itong child na to na may cancer, na the parents are, part of our congregation siguro, or part of our, so it's a congregational decision. Now, are you forbidden to help other people? Of course not. Individually, you can also give to anything. But the one that you give to your local group, I'll not even call it a church, your local church, yung group nyo, is a specific percentage that you have decided that you are giving cheerfully, but not limited to that. You can give to as many, but here it says, on the first day of every week, each one of you should set aside. So again, here's the key word, every week. In other words, Nestor, this is something that you quote unquote deposit on a regular basis, whether there is a need or no need, you set it aside on a regular basis. Now, yung sa'yo, yung mayroong ka tinulungan, that is a special situation. It doesn't happen every week. Okay? Baka, next month meron kang gustong tulungan, then go ahead and help that person.
Maybe Mike, ang question ni Nestor is parang ganito na, halimbawa, may tinulungan ako, may binigyan ako, can I now forgo my giving to the church or to the equivalent binibigay ko sa church? Parang ganun yata, ganun ang tingin ko doon sa tanong ni Nestor.
Exactly. Exactly, boy. That is exactly his question.
Will that be equivalent na hindi na ako pwedeng magbigay, hindi na ako kailangan magbigay doon?
No.
Parang ganun eh.
Kaya nga, that's why I'm saying, here it says, on the first day of every week. So in other words, this is a regular giving. This is something that you give in a group, and the group has to decide where that funds should be used. On the other hand, if you want to help somebody else, then go ahead. But you cannot say, dahil nagbigay na ako doon, then therefore I will hold myself from giving to my responsibility of the every week. Now, yung giving, remember, yung giving sa group is not because you have to pay a pastor. Unless he is a full-time pastor, yun lang ang ginagawa niya. Remember, both the government people have to be paid because they give their time full-time. And the Levites in the Old Testament also does full-time. That's why they are supported by the temple tax. But let's say, sa group nyo, kay Danny, specifically kay Danny. Well, Danny doesn't give it full-time. Yes, he's giving a lot of time, but, hindi naman kailangan. Kumbaga, no? I mean, he does, he's an architect, he has whatever. But, still, the group has to give something so that when a situation arises, baka meron kayong gustong isupport na missionary. Okay? Baka, okay, padala natin kay alam ko, kailangan yan ng funds doon and so on. Then, you as a group can decide that. You can decide that. So, ayun. Yun ang sagot ko doon. Any more questions? Wait, I was expecting a lot of questions. Any more?
So yung percentage pala, Mike, based on New Testament teachings about tithing or giving, hindi fixed talaga, no? But the church may adapt, no? Pag sinabi, sige, for tithes to be given to the church para sa ministries ng church, the minimum is 10%. So, minimum ang naka-indicate, this is our church because it's possible for an individual to be more generous than that.
Yes, Lowell. But I will even say that there's no such thing in the New Testament that says minimum 10%. Nowhere will you find that it says give minimum 10%. If you have decided to give cheerfully, not holding it back, to give 5% cheerfully, so be it. But can you grow from there? Of course you can. Again, sa example natin, si Boboy, 500,000 pesos a month. Si Enzo, 50,000 a month. So si Enzo is already giving 1,000. How much is 1,000 of 50,000? Magkano yun? How many percent yun?
10% is 5,000.
Huh?
10%.
Oh, 5,000. So 1,000 is magkano yun?
0.02.
0.02. Okay, so 0.02 or 0.2%. Okay? Now, si Boboy, tanong ko, what is 1,000 of 500,000? 0.0002. Okay, whatever it may be. But the point is this. The point is there is always room to improve. You know, we cannot demand from a person, for example, from a person who's earning much less, and then from a person who is basically undiscipled, and demand kailangan magbigay ka ng 10%. I think that's not only is it wrong, it's unscriptural. Unless you're a Levite, unless you're a Jew, and you're practicing a Jewish practice. But as Christians, no, it should be coming from the heart. And therefore, I know of Christians, I even know personal Christians that I know of who give 90% of their income. They call it reverse tithing, because with their 10%, it's still a huge amount of money.
Wow.
Okay? So again, it all depends. Ano ba? What is your heart?
Yeah.
So,
the principle is the sowing and reaping, of course.
the principle is sowing and reaping. Both Jesus and Paul started with sowing and reaping. See, Jesus, the measure you give, the measure you will receive. Kay Paul, the more you sow, the more harvest. Well, that's the principle. And by the way, the returns is not peso to peso. It's not peso to peso. The Lord blesses us in return in many other ways. So it's not peso to peso.
Right. But there's
Yes,
always
Rex.
pesos.
No.
You just like to say that there's always pesos.
Hold on. Lowell, ano yung sabi mo, Lowell?
Yeah. Businessman kasi ako, di ba?
Oo.
My personal experience, parang palaging merong pesos.
Yeah. And by the
course,
way,
there are
here's another
others.
thing. Lowell, here's where the problem would come in if we strictly say tithes. Ikaw, businessman ka. How are you going to calculate your 10%? Lagi tinatanong sa akin. I've always been asked, ano ba? Before tax? After expenses? Guess what? The nice thing about Christianity, ikaw ang bahala. What you decide in your heart that you give cheerfully, then so be it. Kung equivalent ba yun to 15%, to 20%, praise the Lord. If you think that you have been giving 20% and then you still have a lot of excess, then give it away. In another text, Jesus says, what good is it if you gain the whole world? Para qué? What if you have 2 houses, 3 houses, 5 houses? Ano? In every day, in every night, you can only sleep in one bed. Okay? So, all right. Rex, may tanong ka? Or comment?
Wala naman. Comment lang siguro. I think I truly understand the principle of tithes, but it depends on the type of government during those days in the Old Testament. And now, sabi ni Jesus na giving is, as long as you are cheerful giving and giver, and it comes from the heart, and that number was presented during the Old Testament. Ngayon, if you are giving for the Lord, it even goes more than that 23%.
Oh yeah.
As long as you can afford to give, di ba?
Yun ang key. As long as you can afford and as long as you're giving it cheerfully. Tama ka, Rex. Tama ka. So isn't that a release? Kasi sometimes churches always use the term tithing. Okay? But people who attend knows that they are breaking that command. I mean, totoo lang. I mean, how many of you are here Christians? Okay? Boy, Danny, sa alam ko kayo yung mga old time, matagal na. Have you been strictly following tithes? I doubt. Ako hindi. Okay? So, but it's a release to know that, wow, it's about my heart. It is not about the obedience to the law, to the small detail. Dan, were you raising your hand? Naka-mute ka.
As far as, let's change the term, hindi na tithing, giving.
Exactly. You can call
as far
it
as medyo familiar ang mga contractors sa hindi man tithe but SOP. Yung SOP is a demand by the one who's giving you favor na meron siyang share kasi siya nag-provide ng project. So we are cheerfully giving to the padrino or the sponsor ng sineset aside nga yan kaya sanay na sa SOP. I mean, I'm not saying everyone, pero yan ang practice sa like government projects. Hindi ka makakakuha ng project kung hindi ka nag-SOP. Imagine natin si Lord ang ating boss, but it's true, He's our boss. He's the one providing everything, the opportunity to make business, to generate income. Kasi hindi lahat ng project kumikita, pero God is the one giving us all the opportunity, the ability to earn, and He even makes sure na successful ka sa project mo.
Yeah.
Why is it not just fair to give him his share?
Yeah. And Dan, if I may just tweak a little bit your illustration, here's the biggest difference. Yung sinasabi mong SOP or, we give so that He can give us a project and so on. That is future tense. In other words, you are giving for a potential response na meron ibibigay sa'yo. In the Christian giving, we give because of what He has done. Past tense. So, so yung illustration of SOP is not so much bullseye because in the case of the Lord, we are responding to what He has already done. And the more we understand, the more we acknowledge what He has already done, giving is a lot easier. Not only will you give your money, you will give your time, you'll give your effort, you'll give your energy. It goes back to Romans 12. Offer your bodies and everything in it as a living sacrifice. This is your true and proper worship.